Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamiham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today first time I'm trying to do mobile. I don't know if there is any inconvenience. Kindly bear with that. So we are there in the 14th sloka of the second chapter of second canto. So we will continue from here. I think somebody's this is not muted. So if you can mute yourself, it will be nice. Okay, thank you. यावन्न जायेत परावरेऽस्मिन् विश्वेश्वरे दर्शधरि भक्तियोगः तावत् स्तवीयः पुरुषस्य रूपं क्रियावसाने प्रयत्न स्मरेत. Unless the gross materialist develop a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both the transcendental and material worlds, he should remember or meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at end of his prescribed duties. So, in the same lines, Srila Prabhupada also was mentioning similar kind of this one. Unless a person is purified, so he cannot meditate on the personal form of the Lord. So then he has to meditate upon the universal form or the Virata Rupa. So basically, like treating the nature properly and indirect forms of meditation on the Supreme Lord. So why? Because there is an enviousness towards the personal form of the Supreme Lord. So a materially engrossed person, sometimes he is not able to tolerate the personal form of the Lord. So sometimes they are advised to like meditate upon the universal form of the Lord, an indirect representation of the Lord. Right? So we'll read the translation again. Unless the gross materialist develops a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both the transcendental and material worlds, he should remember or meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at the end of his prescribed duties. Okay. So purport. The Supreme Lord is the seer of all worlds, both material and transcendental. In other words, the Supreme Lord is the ultimate beneficiary and enjoyer of all worlds, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 5:29. Bhoktaram Yaknatapasham Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Surudam Sarvabhutanam Natva Mam Shanti Muchati. So that's words 5:29. The spiritual world is the manifestation of his internal potency, and the material world is the manifestation of his external potency. Right? So this both spiritual world and material world are nothing but his energies. No, it's manifestation of his energies. The living entities are also his marginal potency, and by their own choice, they can live either in the transcendental or material worlds. So now we saw the first statement that was there was that the spiritual world is the Lord's potency, and the material world is also Lord's potency, and we, the living entities, are also Lord's potency. So all these things are Shaktis, different Shaktis of the Lord. So one is called the Antaranga Shakti, that is the spiritual world, and the material world is called as the Bahiranga Shakti, or the external potency. And then the living entity, all of us are called Tatastha. Tatastha means like sometimes we call this cat on the wall. So cat on the wall can jump this side or that side, right? So that is marginal. So in the same way, the living entities are called the marginal or tatastha shakti. And by our choice, either we can live in the spiritual world under the protection of the Lord, or we can live in the material world. So these two are our choice. In many places, Srila Prabhupada explains that the living entity can go back to the spiritual world. For that, only one thing that is required, that is desire. If we have the desire to go back to the spiritual world, the Lord is very, very happy to take us back to the spiritual world, right? So it is only by our desire we are staying in this material world in a miserable condition and things like that. So it is just simply because of our desire. So let's continue. The material world is not a fit place for living entities because they are spiritually one with the Lord. And in the material world, the living entities become conditioned by the laws of material world. So the Lord wants all living entities who are his parts and parcels to live with him in the transcendental world. And for enlightened conditioned souls in the material uh, and for the enlightened conditioned souls in the material world, all the Vedas are and the revealed scriptures are there expressly to recall the conditioned soul back home, back to Godhead. So here it's nicely put that no, it is we told about our desire, that only because of our desire we are staying in this world. And if we have the desire, then we can go back to the spiritual world. And here specifically, the desire of the Lord is mentioned. What does the Lord want? The Lord wants all of us to be there back home, and be there comfortable and peaceful over there. So Lord never wants us to suffer in this material world. It's only because of our choice that we suffer in this material world, right? So one time, one of my Gita course students, she had called me for some guidance. And she was having a son who's grown up, who's like kind of almost in the age of going to college. But then he is all the time in the this playing games and things like that and all in the mobile. And whenever he demands money, the parents have to give. And if they don't give, he'll beat up the parents. That's the kind of condition it was. And one thing she was asking was, should we at all give money and things like that and all. So then I asked, what will happen to him if you don't give money? He will be very upset. He will scold us. He'll say that you're not caring for me and things like that and all. So then at that point I told, this is exactly the Lord is also feeling about us, right? So sometimes the Lord is not giving what we want, what we pray for, or seemingly what is good for us, what we think what is good for us. If the Lord is not giving, we say the Lord saying, no, all names we call him, saying that no, he's not merciful, whether he's there at all or not, and things like that and all. So this is what is exactly happening. As a parent, she was thinking that if my son becomes a nice person, and if he stays back home, it is very nice. But then what happened? Because he was beating up and things like that, he was left in some hostel, and then the parents were staying away. So this is exactly the Lord is also doing. We become so notorious that we have to be put in this hostel of this material world, or precisely jail of this material world, and to reformation. And the Lord is keeping us away. And then what is the Lord's desire? No, since he has kept us away, what is his? No, his desire is that I think somebody's, this one is unmuted. If you can check your mute and then make sure that your hands are not muted. So mute it and keep it. So yeah, so I will only mute it. Oops. Who's this one? 2, 3 are mute. Okay. Okay. So the Lord's desire is that we become we become proper adherence of his like properly following him and staying back in the spiritual world and things like that. So that's the desire of the Lord. But then the condition that we are in is that we don't want to agree with the Lord, and the Lord has kept us away. And but then his desire is that we come back home, and that is the reason for him coming to this material world and him giving the revealed scriptures and things like that. It is just to call us back, to back home. It is very nicely Srila Prabhupada puts, back home, back to Godhead. That means that is our real home, right? So the spiritual world is our real home, and this material world is just it's definitely not our home. So we keep changing different bodies. So we are not at all properly situated here, right? Unfortunately, the conditioned living entities, although suffering continually the threefold miseries of conditioned life, are not very serious about going back to Godhead. It is due to their misguided way of living, complicated by sins and virtues. Some of them who are virtuous by deeds begin to re-establish the lost relationship with the Lord, but they are unable to understand the personal feature of the Lord. The real purpose of life is to make contact with the Lord and be engaged in His service. That is the natural position of living entities. But those who are impersonalists are unable to render any loving service to the Lord. Have been advised to meditate upon the impersonal feature, the Virata Rupa or universal form. Right? So again, in the boy's case that we were discussing, that first of all, he giving up his bad habits, it's a big thing. And after that, we have to convince him, saying that okay, you have to serve your parents. That is another big challenge. So now here we see the impersonalists. So they are like the intermediate state. They understood what they are doing is wrong. They are stopping all that they are doing is wrong, but then still they have not come to the terms of serving their parents. Still they have not come to the point of serving the Supreme Lord. So they have come to a point of neutrality where I will not do anything wrong, but then I cannot serve the Lord also, right? So because of the old envious nature that is still there, so they are advised to meditate upon the Jyoti, Brahma Jyoti, or they are advised to meditate upon this Virata Rupa form of the Lord and things like that. So Virata Rupa form of the Lord essentially means, we studied that hills, trees, rivers, and various natural phenomena and things like that, to think that this is part of the body of the Lord, and then meditating upon that. So that is for the less what is that, people who are too envious of the Lord, so they can start their meditation from the Virata Rupa. Some way or other, one must try to re-establish one's forgotten relationship with the Lord, if one at all desires to gain real happiness in life, and to reclaim his natural unfettered condition. What is this? Okay, dictionary is not there here. Okay. Unfettered condition. So probably the natural condition, to reclaim one's own natural condition. For the less intelligent beginners, meditation on the impersonal feature of the Virata Rupa or universal form of the Lord will gradually qualify one to rise to the personal contact. One is advised herewith to meditate upon the Virata Rupa, specifically in the previous chapters, in order to understand how the different planets, seas, mountains, rivers, birds, beasts, human beings, demigods, and all that we can conceive are but different parts and limbs of the Lord's Virata form. This sort of thinking is also a type of meditation on the absolute truth. And as soon as such meditation begins, one develops one's godly qualities, and the whole world appears to be a happy and peaceful residence for all people of the world. Without such meditation on God, either the personal or impersonal, all good qualities of the human beings become covered with misconceptions regarding its constitutional position. And without such advanced knowledge, the whole world becomes a hell for the human beings. Right? So, somebody was telling me that recently in China there is another outbreak of plague that is happening, and then people are dying just within one day. And if they're not treated well before a day, so they are dying, it seems. So such kind of things, it's just because human society has become just hellish, that they are not able to understand the constitutional position. And without such advanced knowledge, the whole world becomes a hell for the human beings. Right? So somebody was telling me that recently in China there is another outbreak of plague that is happening, and then people are dying just within one day. And if they're not treated well before a day, so they are dying, it seems. So such kind of things, it's just because And just because, like, we are just breaking the laws of God, left, right, and center. So that's the main problem, why all these problems are happening. Okay. So text 15. Stiram sukham cha sanamashito yatair yada jihasurimamangalokamkale cha deshe cha mano na sajjayed pranan niyachen manasa jitasuhu. O king, whenever the yogi desires to leave this planet of human beings, he should not be perplexed about the proper time or place, but should comfortably sit without being disturbed and regulate the life air, should control the senses by the mind. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 8:14, it is clearly stated that a person who is totally engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord, and who constantly remembers him at every step, easily obtains the mercy of the Lord by entering into his personal contact. Such devotees do not seek an opportune moment to leave the present body, but those who are mixed devotees, alloyed with fruitive action or emphoric philosophical speculation, require an opportune moment for quitting this body. Okay, so the pure devotees of the Lord, so they are not affected by what time they. I'm sorry, where it went. Okay. So, no, the pure devotees of the Lord, they are not afraid of the proper time and situation and things like that. So, anytime they want, they can actually move on from this planet. But then the mixed devotees, who are not fully devoted to the Lord, but they have this two contaminations. So, this we will time and again will keep seeing these two contaminations that is coming. So, one is that. The okay. Oh, we have gone to the next sloka itself. Okay. So one is that he is disturbed. Just a minute. Seeing the purport. Okay, sorry. The purport we were seeing. Okay. Alloyed with fruitive actions or emphoric philosophical speculation. So these two things we will keep often keep. These two things are the obstacles on the path of the God realization. So fruitive action means action that is uh, what is that? Whose goal is to get some fruits, whose goal is to get something for myself, right? So that is called fruitive action. And emphoric philosophical speculation. So that means basically like if I am caught up in a situation, so how to get out of that situation? Basically, like aiming for liberation. So that is called emphoric philosophical speculation. So such things has to be given up, and then one has to take full shelter of the Lord, saying that I am in the safe hands of the Lord. I don't need to speculate, this way or that way and things like that. So He's going to take care of me. He's going to take me through, and I don't want to not tax my brain in that way, right? So when I do that kind of surrender to the Lord, then it is very, very nice. Then the Lord actually takes charge of the person. But then if I am keeping myself, if I am worried about my security, so first level of security is that I want to survive in this world. I need to have so many things, so many fruits to survive in this world. So either in the form of people, or in the form of money, or in the form of name and fame. So some sort of security we always seek after. So that is called the fruitive action. And emphoric philosophical speculation is the moksha kama. Moksha kama means desiring to get out of the situation, and trying to work it out on our own strength, our own capacity of thought process and things like that. So trying to get out of this material miseries by our own thought process and our own efforts. So that is emphoric philosophical speculation essentially. So by doing these two, we are not fully giving up ourselves on the hands of the Lord. So we all know the famous pastime of Draupadi, where she was disrobed, and then Dushashan was disrobing her, and no, Krishna was not coming to help her. And when asked by Rukmani that, your devotee is in trouble, why are you not going there to help her? And Krishna told that, no, still she thinks she can manage. So when she thinks she can manage, then I am not needed over there, right? So when she actually lifts up her hands and then says, "Oh Madhava, Keshava, like, no, you are my only shelter." So then the Lord actually comes to protect. So he is kind of a person who's exclusive in his nature. So when we take exclusive shelter of the Lord, so that is when he will also offer complete like a protection. So when we think that, oh, I'm sorry. When we think that something else can protect me, so then it is a problem, right? So then it's a problem. So just a minute, I'll put off the video. Mm. Okay, so in that way, we can see that the pure devotees, no, they don't need to care for different time and things like that and all, because they have completely given themselves on the hands of the Lord. So at any time they pass away, anytime, no, like any time is auspicious time. But then for the this one mixed devotees, who are still having some security, they have taken shelter of the Lord, but then they also, cling on to some securities like fruitive action and emphoric philosophical speculation. For them, they have to care for so many different times, and like good and bad and things like that. So many things they have to consider. So but still their result is not guaranteed, right? So because they want to take care of the situation themselves, so that's a problem, right? So now we see that further, for them the opportune moment are stated in the Bhagavad Gita 8:23 to 26. But these opportune moments are not as important as one's being a successful yogi who is able to quit his body as he likes. Such a yogi must be competent to control his senses by the mind. The mind is easily conquered simply by engaging it at the lotus feet of the Lord. Gradually, by such service, all the senses becomes automatically engaged in the service of the Lord. That is the way of merging into the Supreme Absolute. So here, merging means to, in the like in terms of not in terms of losing our identity and merging into the existence of Lord. So it is about the drishta eva atmanishware. So that is to feel that oneness and connection, that whatever the Lord wants, I'm ready to do. No, whatever He wishes, no, I'm ready to do. So that's the oneness. That is the merging in the existence of the Lord, which the Vaishnavas talk about. So we never talk about losing our identity and mixing in the Lord. So that is never the Vaishnava conclusion, and that's sufficiently been described in Bhagavatam. So whenever this point comes of like merging in the existence of the Lord, it is only that I have become completely in sync with the Lord. No, I'm ready to serve Him as He wants. Okay,
Guruji,
Manaswab. Huh?
sorry to interrupt, but you have stopped sharing the screen.
Oh, stop this screen. Okay. Okay. Okay, so it's there. Okay. मनस्वबुद्ध्या मलया नियम्य शत्रज्ञ एताम निय निनयेत्तमात्मनि आत्मानमात्मनि अवरुद्ध्य धीरो लब्धोपशान्तिर् विरमेत कृत्यात्. Thereafter, the yogi should merge his mind in his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of satisfaction, so that he ceases from all other activities. So this is a gradual process of relinquishing the body. Like a yogi, he's very expert in doing that. Later on in some sections of Bhagavatam, we will see, or in the second canto itself, that how the gross body is merged into the subtle body, and then the subtle body is merged into the false ego, and then like that, gradually the like disintegration of the body. How does a yogi does at his own will? No, that is mentioned. So here also it is mentioned that one should merge his mind, by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. So this is all the yogic terminologies. So we will see the purport, we will get a little more clear understanding. The functions of the mind are thinking, feeling, and willing. When the mind is materialistic or absorbed in material contact, it acts for material advancement of knowledge, destructively ending in discovery of nuclear weapons. But when the mind acts under the spiritual urge, it acts wonderfully for going back home, back to Godhead, for a life in complete bliss and eternity. Therefore, the mind has to be manipulated by good and unalloyed intelligence. So now here, Prabhupada is giving the explanation for merging the mind into intelligence is like the mind has to be guided and manipulated by the intelligence. No, intelligence should be guided by the scriptures, and no, intelligence should guide the mind. So that's the hierarchy. So it is not that the in the Gita course we would have studied, the thing is the senses are there, and the master of all the senses is mind, and then higher than mind is intelligence, and higher than intelligence is the soul itself, right? So now we see that the senses demand so many things. Oh, this is so nice thing is there, like I can eat this, or this is a nice thing which if I have this, no, I'll be secure, and things like that. So many different things that are there the senses may want, and then the mind plans for satisfying the senses, and then the intelligence is dragged to make plans for the demands of the mind. But actually speaking, we should be studying the scriptures and sharpening our intelligence based on the scriptures, and we should guide our mind saying that this is how you should use your senses, no, like this is what the scripture says, and this is how we should use your senses. So that's the proper use of intelligence and mind. So now here the proper usage is mentioned here, no, therefore the mind has to be manipulated by good and unalloyed intelligence. No, that's a very nice line. It's written here. And then perfect intelligence is to render service unto the Lord. And where do we get this instructions from the scriptures, right? So the intelligence should be guided by scriptures and sadhus. One should be intelligent enough to understand that the living being is in all circumstance a servant of the circumstances. So like that means I cannot control any circumstance. I know circumstances are created by the will of the Lord or by my past karma, and whatever is the circumstances I'm put in, I only can act as a servant. I cannot be the master of either the time or people or any situation. So that is not possible, right? So every living being is serving the dictates of desires, anger, lust, illusions, insanity, and enviousness, all materially affected. But even while executing such dictations of different temperaments, he is perpetually unhappy. So when one actually feels this and turns his intelligence to inquiring about it from the right sources, he gets information of the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Instead of serving materially for the above mentioned different humors of the body, the living entity's intelligence then becomes freed from the unhappy illusion of materialistic temperament, and thus by unalloyed intelligence, the mind is brought into the service of the Lord. Right? So the Lord and his service are identical, being on the absolute plane. So this is actually Prabhupada is putting it a very nice way. So this is actually a Sanskrit shloka, what he is putting it. So he says, Kamadinam kathina katita palita durnideshas tesham jatamayi na karuna na tripano pashanti uchrajjaita natayadupate sampratham labda buddhis tvamayatam sharanam abhayam mam nim shvatmadashe. So this is a very nice shloka. So this talks about Kamadinam. Kamadina means lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, all these things. No, generally, no, those things are grouped together, and then it is mentioned as Adinam means like in the list, whatever other entities are there. So whenever we want to talk about the six anarthas that we have, no, all that is mentioned. Sorry, all that is mentioned here. So all these six anarthas are basically like put in as like kamadinam. So like all the list, that follows with that. So kamadinam katina katita palita durnidesha tesham jatamayi na karuna na tripa na upashanti. So that is like no, I have been serving. This is one of the devotees praying in this way. I have been serving all these people, this lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and things like that. And I have served them life after life. I have been a very, very dedicated servant of them. But then they have never been merciful to me. They have never told that you have done sufficient to me and I'm very satisfied. They've always been demanding, no, give me more, give me more, give me more. So that is the attitude that they have. And then I've been serving them so long, no, they have not become satisfied. I have also not become satisfied, and it is always a miserable thing. So then this one devotee is saying that Ushrit Jaitan Ata Yadupate Sampratam Labda Buddhist. So very recently I have got some good intelligence, and then I'm trying to surrender to the Yadupati, the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is the master of the Yadus. So I'm trying to surrender unto him, and then Tvamayatam Sharanam Abhayam Mam Ninshvatmadashe. So like no, I just want to be a servant of the Supreme Lord. I just want to simply surrender unto him and serve. So I have served all the wicked masters of this lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, and things like that. No, I don't want to serve them anymore. No, I want to serve the Supreme Lord. So this one exactly the same thing that Prabhupada is putting it over here, right? So instead of serving materially for the above mentioned different humors of the body, the living entity's intelligence then becomes freed from the unhappy illusion of materialistic temperament, and thus by unalloyed intelligence, the mind is brought into the service of the Lord. The Lord and his service are identical, being on the absolute plane. Therefore, the unalloyed intelligence and the mind are merged into the Lord, and thus the living entity does not remain a seer himself, but becomes seen by the Lord transcendently. When the living entity is directly seen by the Lord dictates to him to act according to his desire. And when the living entity follows him perfectly, the living entity ceases to discharge any other duty for his illusory satisfaction. In his pure unalloyed state, the living being attains the stage of full bliss, labdo pashanti, and ceases all material hankerings. Just a minute, I'll just put do not disturb mode. Okay. Okay, next shloka. Nayatra kalo nimisham paraprabhu kutonu deva jagatam yai ishire nayatra sattvam narajastamascha navai vikaro namahan pradhanam. In that transcendental state of labdo pashanti, there is no supremacy of devastating time, which controls even the celestial demigods who are empowered to rule over the mundane creatures. And what to speak of the demigods themselves? Nor is there the mode of material goodness, nor passion, nor ignorance, nor even the false ego, nor the material causal ocean, nor the material nature. Right. So this is very nicely put. When a person is in the transcendental plane, when he is on the plane of the soul, or the spiritual platform, what happens is, the time, the devastating time stops acting on him. The time is not able to act on him. And then the devatas, all the different devatas, Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and all these people, so they are also not able to put their influence upon this person who's completely on the spiritual plane. Why? Because they themselves are controlled by time, and this person has even transcended the time. So time is also energy, material energy, right? So it is not something spiritual. The time is a material energy, and when we come to the platform of spiritual plane, we will even transcend this one rulings of the time. That's what is mentioned here, right? And then here yeah, so the material mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, all these things also doesn't affect. The person becomes situated in the Shuddha Sattva, Vasudeva Sattva. So like Shuddha Sattva. So he gets to that plane. So that is the spiritual plane. So there is no material thing can affect him. So this material world is going on, and he has become a third party to this material world, and he doesn't have anything to give or take in this material world. So he becomes completely aloof, and not any activity of this material world cannot disturb him. He's become completely aloof of anything happening in this world. Right? So purport: devastating time, which controls even the celestial demigods, by its manifestation of past, present, and future, does not act on the transcendental plane. The influence of time is exhibited by the symptoms of birth, death, old age, and disease. And these four principles of material conditions are present everywhere in any part of material cosmos, up to the planet Brahmaloka, where the duration of life of the inhabitants appears to us to be fabulous, right? So we had studied in the time, like in the Gita course and the time session. So we see that how our Kali Yuga is 4,32,000 years, and then double the time of that is the Dwapar Yuga, and four times of that Kali Yuga is the this one Treta Yuga, and then sorry, so the double of that. Um, Mm, so it is two times, three times, and four times. Yeah. So three times of the Kali Yuga is the this one like Treta, and then four times is the Satya Yuga. So these four things put together, so it is like 4,32,000 into 10. So that is one Divya Yuga. It is called Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, and thousand such Divya Yugas makes one daytime of the Brahmaloka, and then no night time is equally the same. So it appears to be quite fabulous, quite an enormous amount of time. But then they will feel, the residents of the Satyaloka or Brahmaloka planet, so they will feel it just like any day that we pass on. So it's not very big for them. So for us it is very big. So Srila Prabhupada sometimes he explains that the insects which take birth in the night and then they die in the morning. So for them, that one night will look like it is no, it is 100 years to pass. So for them, the feel of that one night, what they are living, is no equivalent to what we feel and perceive in our whole lifetime. So that's a different. Every living entity is put on a different time scale. So though we may be perceiving that, okay, no, these are all happening here and things like that. So every living entity perceives according to his species, according to his like position where he is in. The time acts differently for different people, or at least the different species and things like that. Especially the planetary systems in Brahmaloka, the time conception what is there and the time conception what is there here. So they both are, there is lots and lots of difference between them. So time is not one. Time acts differently for different locations. And so here we see that it may be very fabulous to study about the time duration of the residents of Brahmaloka, but then insurmountable time. So we will continue the purport. Insurmountable time even brings about death of Brahma. So what to speak of other demigods like Indra, Chandra, Surya, Vayu, and Varuna? The astronomical influence directed by the different demigods over mundane creatures is also conspicuous by its absence. So, like, there is no more, no, for a sadhu, you cannot say, like, no, like, we will see that, what is your astrology is talking about. So, astrology doesn't work for a sadhu because, the astrology is based on the past karma, and the past karma of a sadhu is destroyed. So what will the astrology say for him? Like, no, it'll only be a stale information which has already been changed, right? So it's not going to work so much, for a purified soul. So in that way, like all these astronomical influences and things like that, they will not affect much for a self-realized person, right? So. mm in the material existence, the living entities are afraid of satanic influence, but for a devotee on the transcendental plane, there is no such fear at all. The living entities change their material bodies in different shapes and forms under the influence of different modes of material nature. But in the transcendental state, the devotee is gunathita, gunathita, or above the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So whenever this word guna comes, in the scriptures, immediately we should understand that is talking about goodness, passion, and ignorance. No trigunatmika maya. So, like, that is the general understanding. Sometimes it is also used for this one describing the spiritual qualities. Guna means also to have good qualities. But in general, when this guna is used, so it is used as like this goodness, passion, and ignorance. And gunatita means like one who has transcended, one who has gone beyond this goodness, passion, and ignorance. Right. So thus the false ego of I am the Lord of all I survey does not arise there. So the false ego is destroyed, and the real ego is taken up. The real ego, or ego means identification. The real ego means no, I am the servant of the Lord. So that's the real ego. In the material world, the false ego of the living being trying to lord it over material nature is something like the moths falling in a blazing fire. The moth is captivated by the glaring beauty of the fire, and when he comes to enjoy it, the blazing fire consumes him. In the transcendental state, the living being is pure in his consciousness, and as such, he has no false ego to lord it over the material nature. Right. So here we see that it's a very, very nice example. A moth or a small insect, he's attracted by the light, the blazing fire. But when he comes closer, he becomes consumed by the blazing fire. So in the same way, when a living entity comes to this material world thinking that I will become the master of it, I will lord over the material nature. So the moment he comes, immediately he becomes consumed by the three modes of nature. Right. So after that, what happens is only the activities of the three modes of nature. So that's very nicely put in Bhagavad Gita. Prakrute kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. So it says that prakrute kriyamanani, the material nature is doing everything. No, the material nature is moving everything, and material nature is in control. Right. So these three modes of nature is in control. We are not in control of things, but three modes of nature is in control. And prakrute kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasaha. Gunai, these three modes of nature. No, karmani sarvasaha. So all the activities are conducted by the three modes of nature. And then ahankara vimuda atma. So one who's having ahankar, thinking that I am doing things. No, he's vimuda. No, he's muda means like he's kind of no less intelligent. No, muda, vimuda atma, ahankara vimuda atma, karta aham iti manyate. So like karta aham iti, that means like I am the doer. No, manyate, like no man ke ja raha hai. Like no, he's thinking in that way that no, I am the doer of things. But in actuality, everything is carried out by the material nature. Right. So in that way, we can see that no living entity becomes attracted by the material nature, thinking that no, I will become the Lord and Master. So in the spiritual world, the Lord is the master, and I am just the servant. I want to be the Lord and master. So that is an attitude with which we come to this material world. The moment we come and approach here, just like a fire, like consumes like a moth or an insect. In the same way, the three modes of nature just consumes us, and then they just put us, on the this one and under their dictations, and then we are just doing things based on the three modes of nature. Sometimes people ask, no, should I do this? Should I act in this way? Should I act in that way? In provoking situation, how should I act? And things like that and all. So my general answer is, in provoking situations, you don't have a choice to act, because you will be pulled by the three modes of nature. And it is only way is that if we practice the devotional service, we can come above the three modes of nature. Then actually we have a choice, know what to do, what not to do. No, otherwise, like we don't have, most of the times in our life, we don't have a choice. We are just pushed by the three modes of nature, and we are just getting into it. So this is one thing that we have to consciously do, which the three modes of nature will never bring us to. Sometimes people say that okay, I will take up to the process of if Lord wants, or if situations become favorable, I will take up to the devotion to Lord. Never the situation will become favorable. No, it is my call. I have to take this call, to surrender to the Lord. No, if I take the call that I will not surrender to the Lord, so then the material nature will dictate. And if I take the call that I will surrender to the Lord, so then the Lord will take us under his shelter. So in this way, we can actually be there either in the shelter of the Lord or in the shelter of the material nature. So that's the essential understanding, right? So this is not going to come by any material permutation and combination. I will become a devotee. So the devotion to the Lord can only be got from a devotee of the Lord, and it cannot be brought about by any other material combination. That's never possible, right? So let's continue the purport. Rather, his pure consciousness directs him to surrender unto the Supreme Lord, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:19. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. So, like the pure consciousness, no, once he becomes a devotee of the Lord and he is sincerely and eagerly wanting to surrender unto the Lord, so gradually he comes to this point, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, no, everything that exists is Vasudev. Like I don't have anything else apart from Vasudev in my life, right? So in that way, so then that becomes a complete perfection of life. All this indicates that in the transcendental state, there is neither material creation nor the causal ocean of material nature. So there is no influence of material nature basically. The above mentioned state of affairs is factual on the transcendental plane, but is factually revealed in the transcendentalist knowledge of advanced state of pure consciousness. Such transcendentalists are of two types, namely the impersonalists and the devotees. Right? So transcendentalists means those who cross beyond this material nature. And there are two people are there. One is the impersonalist and the devotees of the Lord. So these are the two kinds of people who cross beyond the material nature. And let's see this one. For the impersonalist, the ultimate goal or destination is the Brahma Jyoti of the spiritual sky. But for the devotees, the ultimate goal is Vaikuntha planets. The devotee experience the above mentioned state of affairs by attainment of spiritual form for activity in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So this impersonalist and the like personalist or the devotees of the Lord. So today morning we were hearing one nice class from Bhakti Charuswami. So like who had just recently left his body. So one of his recorded classes we were hearing. And then in that he was mentioning the impersonalist and the personalist or the devotees of the Lord. So both of them are like the kaidis in the material world or the prisoners in the material world. And then in the normal prison house, how we can actually get out of this prison house. So one is by good conduct and we can actually get out of the prison house. Another is you dig a tunnel and then escape out of the prison house, or you escape in some other way. So when you escape in some other way, then it is not very safe actually. So if a person properly and honorably comes out of this prison, so he can be there in the state, he can be there as a civilian, it is possible. But if a person escapes from the prison house, so then he has to hide himself in some place again. He has to worry about the police and things like that and all. So it is always a problem, and he doesn't have a proper shelter at any place, right? So in the same way, like a person in the impersonalists, so their goal is Brahma Jyoti, and then they don't want to take shelter of the Lord, and they themselves manage to get out of this material world by nullifying all their karma and things like that. So but then they will not get proper shelter over there. They will have to again search for something. They will have to again run around here and there, right? So but the devotees of the Lord who become the servant of the Lord in the Vaikuntha planets, they are blissful. They become legal citizens of the spiritual world, and they don't have any problem, right? So okay, let's continue the purport. But the impersonalist, because of his neglecting the association of the Lord, does not develop a spiritual body for spiritual activity, but remain a spiritual spark only, merged in the effulgent spiritual rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now we have a material body which is conducive for enjoyment or exploitation of this world. And when we go to the Vaikuntha, we will have a spiritual body which is conducive for the service of the Lord. So now, like sometimes the service of the Lord of chanting or hearing of scriptures and things like that may be a little difficult. But then in the spiritual body, these are all natural activities. Just like we, how easily we eat, how easily we do other activities of the body. In the same way, we will be able to do the spiritual activities of rendering service to the Lord very, very nicely. But then a person who's impersonalist, who's just wants to get liberated, get out of this material world, and he doesn't have desire to enter into the Vaikuntha planets, so he will not develop a spiritual body. He will just remain as a spirit spark, and he will just be there in the Brahma Jyoti. And then because there is no engagement, the living entity means engagement. Because there is no engagement, they will fall back into the material world. That's what is mentioned. enye ravindraksha vimuttamaaninas tvayastabhavad avishuddha buddhaye aruhya kachena param padam tata patanti ada anadrita ishmadangre. Because they patanti ada, they fall down again. Why? Because anadrita ishmadangre. So they don't have the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and because of which they have to again fall into this material world, right? So the Lord is the full-fledged form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, but the formless Brahmajyoti is simply eternity and knowledge. There is no bliss in that, right? So Brahmajyoti, or the effulgence, bodily effulgence of the Lord, so it is no, it is not Satchit Ananda. No, it is Sat and Chit. It is eternity. You will not be asked to take birth again and again and things like that. So you can continue to exist. And then knowledge. That means you know what is matter and what is spirit. No, uh, so Sat and Chit is there, and then you are on the spiritual plane. So that's definitely that is good. But then there is no Ananda. Ananda or bliss or happiness. Only way to get the happiness is service to the Supreme Lord. There is no other way to get happiness. So an impersonalist who is just meditating on the impersonal feature of the Lord, that is the Brahma Jyoti. So he will not be put into temporary situations. He will not be deprived of knowledge, but he cannot get bliss, in his existence. So only in the Vaikuntha planets, the bliss is available. Why? Because we are able to serve the Lord. That's the key aspect for being happy. So whenever we are feeling sad, we should immediately think that I should render some service to the Lord or his devotees. Then immediately I'll become happy, right? So that's the root cause of distress, is that depriving ourselves of service. Like we are not like rendering any service to the Lord. So that's the prime cause of like dissatisfaction, depression, and whatever names that we want to call for. It is basically because I don't want, I want to be happy, and I'm able to exploit. So then that is called pride. No, I want to be happy, but then nothing is going my way, right? So then that is called depression. So, but then if I say that, okay, I want to give happiness to the Lord and his devotees, and then I want to render some service, even if you don't want, you will be the most happiest person, because you have stopped thinking about your happiness. You will be the most happiest person in the world, right? So that's the formula to be happy. Those people who are going behind the happiness of this world, they will never achieve it. Those people who give up thinking about their happiness, and those people who just want to satisfy the Supreme Lord by their humble service, that is where they will get so much of happiness. So really, those people who want to be happy, they have to first give up the idea that they have to be happy, and they have to take up the idea that I should render service to the devotees and the Supreme Lord, and I want to make them happy. So then we will become happy, right? So let's continue. The Vaikuntha planets are also forms of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. And therefore, the devotees of the Lord who are admitted into the abode of the Lord also get bodies of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. As such, there is no difference between one and another. The Lord's abode, name, fame, entourage, etc., are of the same transcendental quality, and how this transcendental quality differs from the material world is explained here in this verse. So here we see that the Lord's, there, why it is called, these are all non-different, or they are of the same nature and things like that and all. So basically, in this material world, you see the governments, they are trying to control, they are trying to make policies, and they're trying to bring in some kind of synchronization and things like that amongst everyone. But then they can keep trying and trying and trying. They will never be able to achieve. But in the spiritual world, there is complete coherence. No, there is complete sync. Everybody is in complete sync with the Lord. And then it is just the Lord's activities are happening, and everyone is completely cooperating with the Lord. So there is if for example, if if I'm in a very important position, and then I sanction a good sum of money to somebody, and then the cashier delivers the money, right? So generally what people will say, like, no, you gave money to me, no, I'm very thankful to you. But then I did not personally give, no, the cashier gave. So even the activity of the cashier is considered to be like an activity of myself. In the same way, the activities of the spiritual world, though like in the liberated state, whether I am doing the activity or somebody else is doing the activity, or the environment and things like that, everything is perfectly in sync with the Lord. And any movement over there can be completely called as that's Lord's desire. Even in the material world, we say that without the sanction of the Lord, not even a blade of grass moves. But then here, everything moves based on our desire and Lord's sanction. And in the spiritual world, everything moves just because of the desire of the Lord. No, so there is no two entities like two, three protocols like no, okay, I desire and the Lord sanctions and the material nature executes. So nothing like that over there in the spiritual world. Lord desires and it is executed. That's it, right? So that's the nature of the spiritual world, right? So let's continue. In the Bhagavad Gita, three principal subjects have been explained by Lord Sri Krishna, namely Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. But one can reach the Vaikuntha planets by practice of Bhakti Yoga only. The other two are incompetent in helping one reach the Vaikuntha lokas, although they can, however, conveniently take one to the effulgent Brahma Jyoti as described above. So this one. So karma yoga means what? To engage our results of our activities in some kind of service of the Lord, right? So still I am attached to my activity, right? So what will I do going back to the spiritual world? So there is no fruitive activity. There is no activity which is meant for my pleasure, right? So then such people are not allowed into the spiritual world. And then jnana yoga means I want to get liberation and things like that. So still I want, that still remains. So in the spiritual world, only whatever the Lord wants, that gets executed. So because still I maintain some desire for myself, still I will not be able to enter into the Vaikuntha Loka. So one who says, like, what do you want? Like when it is asked, what do you want? So if the Lord is asking what do you want, so then if somebody is saying that, okay, my Lord, whatever you want, that's what I want. Then he says, okay, fine. No, you can come back to Vaikuntha Loka. So you can be in sync with me, right? So if we ask, okay, I want this, I want that, then the Lord will fulfill and will say like, okay, fine. So you can still stay back here. And whenever you want something, you can keep asking me. I'll keep giving you. And then if we say like, here miseries are there, this is there. So if we get in sync with the Lord, then we can get back to the Lord. Otherwise, we have to stay back in this world, right? So we will stop here and thank you very much for your participation. And because of the phone, this one I don't know, like if I could able to like properly do, if there was any inconvenience, kindly like overlook that. So let's stop the session here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.